Previously, I discovered my mother, Ngozi, alive and burdened by 22 years of guilt, and I met my twin sister, Amara, who had spent her entire life hidden away out of fear that the village would turn on her too. But my journey back to Ekamini was never only about family. Okonkwo, the chief priest who ordered my death at birth, was still alive, and I was about to discover that he had never stopped. This is part 3, the final chapter. In the days following my reunion with my mother and sister, I stayed in Ekamini under my cover as a land consultant, using the time to quietly ask around about Okonkwo. What I discovered chilled me far more than my own personal history ever had. Okonkwo had continued enforcing the twin-killing tradition in secret for over 2 decades, even as neighboring villages had long abandoned the practice under pressure from regional government and religious reform. He had grown more careful, more discreet, framing his actions now not as public decrees before the whole village, but as private, spiritual consultations with frightened new parents, conducted quietly, away from outside eyes. An old woman named Mama Ijoma, who lived 2 compounds away from my mother, quietly confirmed rumors that at least 3 sets of twins had disappeared in Ekamini over the past 10 years alone. Each family told the same story the elders had once told mine, that the child had been returned to the spirits for the safety of the whole village. Nobody speaks of it directly, my daughter, but we all know. We have always known. It is easier to look away than to challenge a man who claims to speak for the ancestors. I realized, standing there, that my survival was not simply a personal miracle to be quietly grateful for. It was evidence, living, breathing evidence, that this practice was not the will of any god, but the choice of one man clinging to power through fear. I could not simply walk into the village square and accuse Okonkwo directly. In a community where his word had carried the weight of divine law for decades, a personal accusation from a stranger would be dismissed instantly, and worse, could put my mother, my sister, and every family who had spoken to me in danger of retaliation. I contacted a colleague from law school who now worked with a regional child protection agency, explaining the situation in full detail and requesting a formal, discreet investigation rather than a public confrontation that could be denied or covered up before authorities could act. Over the following 2 weeks, working carefully and quietly, I gathered testimonies from Mama Ijoma and 2 other elderly women willing to speak anonymously, cross-referenced village birth records that, remarkably, still noted stillbirths for children who neighbors clearly remembered being born healthy and crying, and documented the exact ritual language Okonkwo still used with frightened new parents. I also, carefully and without revealing my full plan, told my mother and my sister the truth about what I had discovered and what I intended to do. My mother wept again, this time not from guilt, but from a strange mixture of fear and fierce, protective pride. You will bring his anger down on this whole family, Adiz. Men like him do not simply accept defeat quietly. Mama, he has already brought his anger down on this family, 22 years ago. I am simply making sure he cannot do it to anyone else again. Amara, who had spent her entire life hidden away out of fear of exactly this kind of man, surprised us both by insisting on being part of the process, offering her own story, the story of a life half-lived in hiding, as part of the formal testimony. 2 weeks after I first arrived in Ekamini under false pretenses, a team from the Regional Child Protection Authority, accompanied by 2 police officers, arrived quietly in the village early one morning, before most of the community had even begun their daily routines. I chose to be present for the confrontation, no longer hiding behind my false profession, but standing openly as Adiz, the daughter of Ekamini, the child buried alive in Ajo Ophia Forest 22 years earlier, now returned as a qualified lawyer working alongside the very system designed to protect children like the one I had once been. When Okonkwo emerged from his shrine hut, expecting perhaps another frightened young couple seeking his counsel, he instead found himself facing armed officers, a regional official holding formal documentation, and a face he clearly, immediately recognized, though he had never expected to see it again. This cannot be. The spirits do not release what has been given to them. This is impossible. The spirits gave me nothing, old man. A hunter named Baba Chitty pulled me from that grave with his own 2 hands while you were sleeping peacefully in your bed. I am not a curse returned to haunt you. I am simply a woman you failed to kill. The village square, normally quiet at that early hour, began filling rapidly as word spread that something significant was happening near the chief priest's shrine. Villagers gathered in stunned silence as the regional official formally read the charges against Ez Okonkwo: decades of documented child endangerment, obstruction of legally mandated birth registration, and continued practice of a custom formally outlawed by national law over a decade earlier. Not everyone in Ekamini reacted the same way. Some elders, particularly those who had personally enforced the old decree against my family, shifted uncomfortably, refusing to meet my eyes. Others, especially the younger generation who had grown up hearing, whispered rumors they never fully understood, watched with a mixture of shock and, surprisingly, relief. My mother stood near the edge of the crowd with Amara beside her, both watching as the man who had once held such absolute power over our family's fate was led toward the waiting police vehicle in handcuffs, his ceremonial staff left behind, abandoned in the dust of his own shrine. As the vehicle pulled away, an unusual quiet settled over Ekamini, the kind of silence that follows the collapse of something everyone had feared, but few had ever truly questioned aloud. For 20 years, I told myself it was tradition, that it was not my place to question the priest's authority. But watching you stand there today, alive, strong, unafraid, I wonder how many of us simply chose comfort over courage. In the weeks that followed, regional authorities worked directly with Ekamini's remaining council of elders, no longer led by Ez Okonkwo, to formally and publicly renounce the practice that had defined the village's relationship with twin births for generations. This time, the declaration would not come from a single feared voice under a baobab tree, but from a genuine community reckoning with its own history. I did not seek Ez Okonkwo's death, or even the harshest possible punishment available under the law. My revenge, if it could even be called that anymore, was simpler and far more permanent than any personal vengeance could ever be. I made absolutely certain that no other child in Ekamini would ever again be carried into Ajo Ophia Forest for the crime of being born alongside a sibling. Using the resources and connections I had built during my education, my sister and I worked together with regional health officials to establish a small community outreach program, specifically designed to support new parents of twins with education, resources, and reassurance during the vulnerable first weeks after birth, the exact window of time when fear had once cost me almost everything. Today, my sister Amara and I both live in Ekamini, in a home we built together on land my mother formally transferred into both our names, a quiet, symbolic correction of 22 years of absence from any family inheritance. We built a small school on the edge of the village, close enough to the forbidden forest that we can still see the ancient Iroko tree from its windows. We named it Chitty's Hope School, after the hunter who saved my life, teaching children from their earliest years that no tradition, however old, is worth more than a single human life. My mother lives with us now, spending her remaining years slowly making peace with a past she never truly chose, finding small moments of joy in watching her 2 daughters, finally reunited, build something lasting together. Amara and I visit the Iroko tree together sometimes, standing where I was once left to die, no longer a place of fear, but a quiet reminder of everything we survived to reach this moment. They buried me because they believed a twin was a curse meant to bring destruction to everyone around her. But I was never a curse. I was a seed, planted in the deepest darkness they could find, and even underground, even forgotten, a seed with enough can still find its way back to the light, and grow into something strong enough to shelter others from the very storm that once tried to destroy it. This has been the complete story of Adiz, the twin who was buried alive and lived to change her village forever. If this story moved you across all 3 parts, please like this video, subscribe for more powerful African stories of survival and justice, and tell me in the comments which part of this journey affected you the most.